Hello everyone, welcome back to another Club by Club AFL Draft analysis video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Melbourne Demons and their draft hand for 2024, and they've got two top 10 picks to choose from in pick 5 and 9. So we're going to go through both these picks, who they should look at, and I guess the same question we keep asking is what are their main list needs? I'll let you start, Jonty, and run me through a few of your ideas. I think we've kind of got similar ideas, but they could go any direction with this with such good talent at hand.
Yeah, and I've been starting to think about Melbourne, interestingly, in recent times with the desired exodus, as reported, of Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca. And what does that midfield look like post Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca, who have been unbelievable for them, carried them to a premiership, obviously. They're still obviously in their late 20s, mid-20s, 27, 28 sort of range. So it's not an immediate need. But I do think that at present their midfield looks very good. If one or two of them were to leave, then you're in a little bit of trouble when it comes to midfield depth, the players that have been exposed, and I think that's an area they could target. And even if they weren't to leave, then 5 or 6 years down the track, I'm just not sure if you've got that quality there to replace them. And I think this is a draft you could target, even if you were having to develop a player in the VFL for a little while, like Collingwood have done with a Finn McRae, even though there's now question marks on him, so that when they come in, they're completely AFL ready. You're obviously at the mercy of other clubs when you've got pick 5, but I'd be looking preferably at a big-bodied mid, someone like a Harvey Langford or a Josh Smiley in that slot.
I 100% agree with this. So I think there's 3 potential with this pick. I think it's Josh Smiley, Harvey Langford, Bo Allen.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
I know that probably feels like a little bit of a reach, but I think he's maybe in the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think those 3 players are really interesting to put up against each other because they're all on this athletically.
Yeah.
They're all really different.
Yeah.
So you've got Langford as this like slow burn, really highly skilled, high footy IQ guy. You've got Smiley as that middleman.
Yep.
And you've got Allen as the really explosive athletic one that's probably a little bit more raw.
Quite springy as well, Langford, we should add. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that. Like, I wouldn't say he's got a huge vertical jump, but I think he can jump a bit and he's strong enough
overhead.
Overhead that he can pull down those marks. So the one for me that I think like what Melbourne would do would be go with Smiley.
I'd agree.
I'd probably just think I lean that way because of safety.
Yeah.
In some ways, I think you go back. Potentially could have been a number 1 pick if the draft was in the mid-season based on what we were talking about there. So I think he comes in and, like you said, he's the Oliver replacement, really, that sort of big inside contested player.
I think what I'd also say with Smiley is the positive with him is you can start him in the forward line, get him his 30 to 40 games of AFL experience, and then when Clayton Oliver or Christian Petrarca leaves, he can really take a centre role in that midfield, unless obviously one of them leaves sooner, and he does have to go in there a little bit sooner, but there is certainly the potential to develop him up forward.
I actually think Smiley would float across half back.
That's really interesting. Okay.
I think that given that they've sort of injected Trent Rivers into the midfield as that pacier player, I think you could play him as a Smiley as a potentially a little bit, try to get him to intercept the footy a little bit and just set up off half back with his good ball use.
I mean, I agree with the Smiley sentiment. I do think he'd fit well. I wasn't thinking as much at the perspective that Oliver and Petrarca on their way out. I mean, they still have. Oliver's the harder one to analyse here because you really don't know. Yeah. I'm still going to assume these guys have at least 3 decent years of football left. So that's still 3 years to go. I don't think you have to put all of your time into, if you don't have to go for a Smiley, I think if he's your best option, you definitely take him. I look down the list, I think Xavier Lindsay injected into that midfield as well with a bit of time. Talk about half backs, but that's one you could put on half. You get Smiley and Xavier Lindsay in the same draft. You've got.
So you'd be looking at Xavier Lindsay with pick 9, would you?
Pick 9, sorry. Yes, should have clarified that. I'd look at more pick 9 with Xavier Lindsay. I also think about, their forward line has been pretty problematic over the last few years. They've struggled to score. Well, accuracy is half their issue at times, but I look at a Joe Berry type in that forward 50 just to mix things up a little because it's more the fact he's got that potential to roll up a little higher and offer not just inside 50, but a bit outside of 50. So those are a few. Murphy Reader had in discussion as well, but I just think those smaller mid types a bit leaner and that can move across the ground a bit better for them.
So just to finish on the pick 5 element before we all go to pick 9, you would say best available talent is what you would take at pick 5?
Yeah, I definitely would at pick 5. If you've gone up that high, you got to take the best available.
And it's probably, we probably all think that to a degree, but I'd say Smiley's a preference, and you would say...
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. So you're saying basically Oliver and Petrarca, they're still there.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to replace them. And I agree with that. It's hard to know where the club's at with all of that stuff. I think a couple of players you guys touched on there, like Reed, I think Taj Houghton is another one. Again, like you're not going to take him at 5. So, yeah, thinking best available.
And I guess with pick 9, I think they have to take a key forward. Personally, I think that's an area of the ground they need to really strengthen up. That
I should disagree here.
Yeah, okay, and that probably means you've got a different perspective on one of their developing forwards. So I'd like to hear which one it is. But I'd personally be leaning towards Job Shanahan. I think he's the best available key forward. But it sounds like they're keener on someone like a Harry Armstrong. With that pick 9 is the way I'd lean. But either way, you'd want a key forward to build your next decade around. Why do you disagree?
So you've got May and Lever both getting towards the end of their careers, particularly Stephen May. They don't have a lot in that intercepting players coming through. They've had a couple of players. I think they just delisted someone. Is it Campbell? Someone. I'm trying to think who that is.
They picked up Tom Campbell.
Oh, they picked up Tom Campbell. Who did they delisted someone from the back line? Anyway, key position player. I think they need to. A really good interceptor coming through just to, play under May, someone that can play straight away to and have an impact. And I think that's probably Luke Traynor. Someone that's fallen off the radar a little bit due to some late concussions, but I think he's still right, like on quality, he's still right in and around that top 10. And I think pick 9 would be a reasonable position for him. He's someone that can... You talk about a key forward. It's not out of the realm that you would play him as a key forward as well.
No, and he has played some of his junior career prior to this year as a key forward. Certainly has that ability to swing up there. Obviously, kick that winning goal for Vic Metro, as we know. But I don't mind the direction you've taken. Do you have confidence that Van Rooyen and Jefferson can hold the forward line for the next decade or so, or is that just not as pressing a list need in your opinion?
I'm confident in Van Rooyen.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm very confident in him. I really like his game. Less so in Jefferson. I've seen less of him, but I just look at that sort of aging back line, and I'd rather build from there. Given where their list's at, and I think this has to be a rebuild for Melbourne. They can't really just top up. So they need to start getting the highest amount of quality. And I think that for me, that's Traynor.
Nathan, what are you doing?
At pick 9.
Yeah.
Well,
you said Xavier
I
Lindsay,
did, but I did have Job Shannon on this list that I just didn't say. Because the more you talked about Smiley, I'm thinking, do they need another mid that offers that kind of Christian Salem type even just
ball in hand.
Yeah. So, but Job Shanahan was at the top of my list. I just didn't say him because I just wasn't sure if that's the direction they really wanted to head in, because they do have that Van Rooyen type. If you've got Jefferson, well, why'd you draft him if you're not going to kind of play him in that role? So it's interesting.
Is the answer to this question really that they need 3 or 4 players?
And therefore, do you look at splitting pick 9?
Yeah, I think you do.
Who would want pick 9?
Giants.
Yeah, Giants. Sydney might want to trade up as well.
Yeah, that's on the. I mean, obviously for the Giants, they'd be more looking at St Kilda's.
Yep.
Splitting one of those picks, but yeah, I think Melbourne need the key position player.
Yep.
They need the midfielder, and then they need a creative player as well.
Yep.
Or at least those 3, maybe even 2 key positions, but we'll start with 3.
Yeah, and I think they're all fair arguments. Yeah, for me, I definitely start with a forward line, but I definitely take a point around May and Lever, and it has to be a consideration in the years to come if it's not in 2024.
Well, interesting to see how Melbourne will play out their draft night this year. Thank you all for watching. All other 17 clubs will be on our channels and across Dylan's as well, so make sure to check them out there. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in another video.